Today I'm going to give you a tip that will apply to both tennis and spec tennis, and that is where you should stand after you hit the ball. So where should you recover to? Now, 99% of people, they go back to the center of the court every time, but that's actually wrong. You want to stand halfway between your opponent's two best shots. So here's an overhead view of the court, and what I'm going to demonstrate in a minute is the proper place to recover to. So notice I've created a triangle using two yellow caution tape lines, and at the far end of that triangle there's a pyramid of balls. That's where the ball is currently for your opponent. So you just hit a shot and that's where they have to go to play it. And so their two best options from there are depicted by the two sidelines of the triangle. And so what that means is, as a player who's receiving that ball, you want to stand halfway between their two best options, which is depicted by the yellow donut that is slightly to the right of the center at the baseline on the near side of the court. And if you don't stand there, you're going to have a lot greater distance to run to get to the ball. You might not even get to the ball. But if you do stand there, you're essentially making it so you run the same distance no matter what shot they hit. And so this is a huge mistake that most tennis players I see, they make when they're on the court, and that is recovering always to the center of the court. But you got to keep in mind that the center of the court changes based on where the ball is. So now I'm going to step down to the court and show you what I mean, a little more depth. And so what I did on this court, imagine that your opponent has the ball down at the end of that triangle. So the far end where there's that big pyramid of tennis balls, that's where the ball currently is. And so I drew out my opponent's two best options. They could hit the ball straight ahead or they could hit a cross-court angle. And remember, when they're hitting cross-court, they actually have the ability to get you off the court because it's not where the ball bounces, but it's actually where you have to go to hit it. So this ball may bounce somewhere around here, but then it continues, and so by the time I'm playing it, I might need to be way over here trying to play that shot. And so it's important to keep that in mind. And so the best place to stand, that is the halfway point between those two options, is actually at this donut right here. So I'm about a step and a half or 2 steps off from the center, and that's going to allow me to get to more balls and also be more relaxed when I'm going to the ball because I'm not going to constantly having to be sprinting to get to the ball. Now, in terms of my return shot, I have to weigh the opportunity cost. If I hit that ball straight, now I need to recover to the left of the center. So that's a long way to go. So oftentimes, especially if I'm on defense, I'm just going to go out and hit this ball back cross court, because then I don't have to go very far to recover on my next shot. The center of the court changes based on where the ball is, and if you do this one thing, you're going to see a drastic improvement. Another thing is, if you're playing against an opponent who's recovering to the center, let's say you have the ball right here, they've created a really big angle for you. I would go with that cross-court angle every time because you can make them run a great distance to get to it since they're standing in the middle of the court instead of in the proper recovery position. And so you can see this is what it looks like from my opponent's perspective, right? Here's where the ball is that they're hitting. You just hit this shot to them. And so their two best options are to go along this line with a cross-court shot or to go straight ahead, and anything in between as well. But if they hit anything in between those two lines, that's going to be even easier for you to get to as long as you're recovered in the correct place. But you should be able to see from this angle that the halfway point in between these two lines is not in the middle of the court on that side. If I start where the ball is and I bisect this angle, which is essentially what you want to do when you're waiting for your opponent's shot, let's say I just start walking in between these two yellow lines down the center. By the time I get over to the other side, I'm not going to be in the center of the court. I'm going to be near where that orange donut is. And so that's the reason why we want to recover to that orange donut, which is slightly offset from the center, versus recovering to the center every time. Now, the same principle would apply if I hit the ball to the other side of the court. So let's say I hit it over there to their ad side. Then I would move my recovery spot slightly over to this side, right? So I'm bisecting the angles that they have going in that direction. Now, if I hit the ball in the center of the court, then that might be a good time to recover to the center of the court because my opponent has equal angle on both sides. And so you move that triangle over to the center and they can hit about the same distance on both sides. Now, if your opponent is not capable of hitting angles, then okay, I understand you might not recover as wide, but when you start off playing, you should apply this principle, and then if you see over the course of the match that they never are capable of getting you outside of the boundaries of the court, right, then you can shift a little closer to the center. All right, so their triangle becomes smaller the lower level player they are, this is a big triangle right here, the lower level player might only be able to hit the ball right through here. And so then your recovery spot also shifts. So start thinking about this recovery tip next time you play, and I assure you it's going to make life a lot easier. You're going to win more, you're going to be able to get to more balls, and you're going to exert less energy by doing so.